Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today, we're going to be talking about how to get more clients using publicity with my girl, Lisa Simone Richards. Woohoo! Lisa is a publicist for online coaches who want to confidently stand out to attract more people. She's here to show you how to become an influencer coach and an expert in your industry. How's it going, Lisa?
Rachel, what better way is there to kick off the day than having this conversation, getting to hang out? I'm super psyched to have this chat with you and hopefully drop some really good nuggets that make a big difference for the people who are tuning in.
Cool. Well, I'm super pumped. Why don't we start off? Just tell us a little bit about you and what it is that you do.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So I knew I was going to get into media and publicity ever since I was a kid. I very specifically remember being about 7 or 8 years old. I had a subscription to Teen People magazine, if you remember that one.
I remember. Oh, for sure.
Okay, cool. So I'm flipping through the magazine and I see the letter to the editor and I think that's the coolest thing. You can write in and then get in a magazine. So I did it. I don't think I asked my parents for paper, a stamp, anything. I figured it all out on my own and sent it out. And then 2 months later, 3 months later, the issue comes with Jonathan Taylor Thomas on the cover from Home Improvement. I know, right? Never forgot that detail.
Nope.
And I was so excited to see my name in print. And I was like, I don't want to be in the media, but I want to be involved in this somehow. So fast forward, I'm first year university in 2002, and I'm hanging out with a girl who's graduating from the sorority I just joined. And she's going to PR school. This is back when Sex and the City was in its heyday. Samantha Jones made it look super cool and glamorous. So I was like, that sounds kind of cool. So I've been in PR literally since I was 18. I've spent half my life doing it. And I've worked with companies like Staple, Virgin Mobile, Crayola. But really what I saw about 5 years ago is there are so many people who are leaving their safe 9-to-5 job to become entrepreneurs in some capacity.
Yep.
And they could never go to an agency like the one that I used to work with. They would be told 100%, we'd love to take you on as a client. It's $10,000 a month for 12 months, just sign here. That just wasn't realistic. So I made it my mission to teach coaches and entrepreneurs how can they get their own visibility? How can they get featured in the media and leverage other people's audiences so they could get in front of their ideal clients in a really meaningful and powerful way?
I love it. And I love the story when you were a kid of, was it Teen Beat? Which one did you say it was?
Teen People. I can literally remember sitting on the floor in my bedroom. I had this awful red carpet, and I think the wall was a background of a beach. But I remember just sitting there reading and being like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever.
Oh, I love that. Okay, super cool. So talk to us. How do you find the right media opportunities?
Okay, so I think there are a few things in there. Number one, I always encourage my client to have something that I call a media mix. So we get to remember that people like to consume in different ways. So I love how you're doing this podcast episode as a Facebook Live. Some people are going to prefer to watch it rather than listen to it. So our ideal client likes to watch. They're either going to want to consume by watching, listening, or reading. So I think it's really good of you to make sure you're getting featured in all three ways. So that could mean getting featured on podcasts so that you're heard, doing Facebook Live similar to this so people can see you. And also, does that mean maybe writing guest contributed blog content? So I think really a lot of the crux of what I do is you're already creating content, you're already putting yourself out there on your platforms. Why not borrow somebody else's audience so you can get that same content in front of more and more people? Something I encourage my clients to do when they just start working with me, and one of my clients just did this and sent me a message this morning. Ask your favorite clients, where are you getting your information? A lot of people I work with are in health and fitness. So they'll be like, hey, where do you get your health and fitness information from? Is there an influencer you follow, a podcast you listen to, a website you log on to? Because now you know where your ICA is actually going. And if you want more people like that, let them tell you what they get their information from so you can show up in those places.
Okay, so you figure out where they get the information from. How do you show up in those places? How would you contact that influencer?
Yeah, okay, cool. So this is all about pitching yourself for publicity and finding that gatekeeper. So if you want to get in Forbes magazine or on a podcast, there is someone who has the opportunity to say, yes, you're in, or no, you're not. So I really kind of go from an inverted pyramid formula, if you will. So let's take the entrepreneur who wants to get featured in Forbes. Fantastic. Head on to Forbes.com. That's the site you want. Then, of course, in the navigation, you're going to see different sections. There's marketing, there's sales, there's entrepreneurship. Which one of those sections does your content fit under? Click on that section. Now this is where you have to go into a little more research, but really simply is typically they're going to have an article name and the author's name underneath. Whose name keeps showing up over and over again on that page, and are they writing about content that's related to you? boom, you have found your gatekeeper. Now it's just about using a little bit of Google, a little bit of LinkedIn, and I have some sleuth creeping skills. I like to call them. Ex-boyfriends beware. I will find you anywhere. And I like all of them, so nothing psycho. But it's just a matter of doing a little bit of research and figuring out who's that one person that I need to know. How do I get their email address, and how do I pitch them in a way that I'm not just saying, hey, I'm Lisa Simone Richards and I'm a visibility coach and I would love to be featured on your website. Will you do a profile on me? Because no one's looking to give you an advertisement. However, if I say, hey, I noticed that you write about A, B, and C topic, and I'm actually an expert in that, and I would love to share some tips with your readers on how to get XYZ result. Would that be valuable to the Forbes.com reader? Now I found a way to position myself in value. And even if that individual says, no, we've started a conversation and my foot's in the door, I can say, what is the kind of content you're working with? Is there someone I could connect you with? Can I provide you with a quote? And now we've got that relationship going, so we can figure out how we can get in there. So that's kind of like the simplest way. You can repeat that with magazines, television stations, podcasts, etc.
What would be the ratio of like emails that you would send out to expected responses?
Okay, that's a really good question. And I wish I could say, for every 20 emails you send out, you should get like one back. The truth is, like, everybody wants to be in Forbes. Everybody wants to be on Oprah. Any client I work with, like 9 times out of 10, they want that. So number one, realize that editors are getting maybe even hundreds of emails a day. So don't be discouraged. The truth is, the visibility that I teach my clients, it's for if you're in the long game. If you're one of those, I want 6 weeks till a laptop lifestyle clients, and you don't want to work with me. I'm all about the long game. So, sorry, what was the question? I just kind of got lost in this for a second.
How many emails would you need
Right.
to send to get like an expected response?
Okay, so honest truth, let me tell you a client story here. So when I first got started in online coaching, I worked with a woman named Cassie, who actually is working with me again 5 years later. So at the time, it was 6 months to work with me privately, and we were in month 5, okay? So she'd gotten some podcasts and smaller websites along the way, but her goal was to get featured in Self magazine. And this is my first time charging someone thousands of dollars to work with me. So I'm feeling pressure, like, 5 months, I got to give her this response because we finish next month. 5 months later, she did get self.com. She got paid to write the article for self.com. They actually asked her to write another one, so she made money from that. The fun story with her is she got self.com on January 1st. She got menshealth.com on January 2nd. And by the end of the day on January 3rd, she made more money than she had the entire January before, because she got exposure in front of so many ideal clients. She got paid to write this content, and now she can always say, I've been featured on Self and menshealth.com. And since then, she's been on Pop Sugar and Oxygen and a ton of other places, but she was in it for the long haul. So the truth is, are you going to get a yes right away? Not necessarily, but I have some clients in less than 10 days, they'll get Forbes. So how much do you want to get that feature? How much do you want that logo? And what are you willing to do to get it is the question.
Got it. So you just need to be persistent.
100%.
Okay. So let's say, okay, you get the opportunity and you're in Self. How do you maximize that exposure? How did she actually monetize that?
Yeah, okay, that's a really, really good question, because I'm a huge believer that visibility gets to have an ROI. It's not just, oh, I got this logo, that's cool.
Right.
So one thing to know, and I love being able to offer these kind of like behind the door secrets and gems, Forbes.com and all those other websites will absolutely never link to your lead magnet. That's not going to happen.
Got it.
And I also honestly can tell my clients, don't have it linked to your URL. Like, I wouldn't have a site, an article go to lisasimonerichards.com, because someone will hop on and check it out for 2 seconds, but they're going to jump off. So what I always advise my clients to do is, once you get a yes to a feature somewhere, create a specific piece of content around that, whether it's a quick blog post, a video, whatever makes sense, but have a content upgrade embedded in there. That could be a lead magnet you already have. Maybe you create something on the fly that's going to be congruent with this media opportunity that you're getting. Because here's the scenario I like to see, and this is what happened for Cassie. Cassie gets featured on self.com. They include a link to her website, but she told them, actually, can you link to this blog post? It's a little more specific, unrelated to the topic. So as people click from self.com onto her website, now they're reading more content, which makes them a warm lead. And within that blog post, she has a link to a lead magnet. So now people can enter their name and email address, and now she can market to them. It's not like they just came on her website and they left.
Got it. Okay, that's brilliant. I love that. What are the ABCs of publicity?
Oh, okay. I call these awareness, buzz, and credibility. Typically, I find anyone who wants to work with me, they're looking for one of those 3 things. So when it comes to publicity, you're either looking for awareness. people, if they don't know who you are, they can't work with you. That if you could be the absolute best person at what you do in the world, but you can't be the best kept secret if you want to have a thriving business. So some people are looking for that awareness. Other people are looking for B, which is buzz. I think about when you have a movie coming out, you don't just hear about it once. Like they're promoting it on television, blogs, radio, the actors all over the place. We know that it takes multiple touch points before a consumer converts. So you may, if you have a launch coming up, for example, you might want to get featured in 5 different places. So people are like, oh my God, I'm hearing about Rachel all over the place. Who is this person? Maybe I should pay a little more attention. The third C is, well, not the third C, but the third letter is C, which is credibility. So are you, you know, when I think about someone getting featured on like an Oprah.com or a Forbes.com, of course, that's going to put you in front of a ton of people. And I would love that that actually generates revenue for you. But the truth is, a lot of the time, you just want that status. I've been featured in Forbes. It just elevates you to a level that's different than every other coach who's hung up a shingle and said, I'm a coach. So maybe you're looking for that credibility piece. So now that people really see you at a certain status.
Got it. What do you think is more beneficial? So like Forbes might give you like the status, but would a podcast give you perhaps like a better quality lead than Forbes?
So that's a great question. That's why for me, it's like the things that I do aren't cookie cutter. It really depends on the person who's in front of me. So I think about one of the first clients I worked with when I had my agency back in 2015. They were identical twin chiropractors, doctors Marco and Paolo De Ciantis, and they had a clinic called Sports Specialist Rehab Center. I always think of them as like the property brothers of chiropractics. What are the chances identical twins are going to become doctors doing that? So I worked with them, and the first opportunity that they got was on the equivalent of The View here in Canada. So national daytime TV show from all the way from the BC on the West Coast to the East Coast. So they got featured on that show, I think at least 3 times. And they also started getting paid because they were leaving their practice, not seeing clients, to come in and do these 7-minute segments. So they were getting exposure across the country and getting paid for it. It was glamorous. It's one of the biggest logos that you can get here in Canada. That was awesome. And their revenue went up when they got featured on the local crappy cable network that was all run by volunteers because it was hyper local to their neighborhood. So they were airing in front of the people who had the potential to walk into their facility and give them money. So while it wasn't as glamorous an experience and not as big a logo, that's what actually paid them. So it's really about what's the strategy and what's the intention. I can get you in front of a ton of people and get you a wicked logo, but it may not pay you. Right. But sometimes the less sexy thing is what's going to put cash in your pocket.
Got it. Let's say I have a launch coming up and I want to get on a bunch of different podcasts. What should be like the first thing that I do when starting that strategy?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'll share a little bit about my iTunes rabbit hole that I love to go down. So typically I think about who's the ideal client I want to get in front of. Is it like a mom audience? Is it like women who are in midlife? Like what's the actual category you want to be in? And then work on, just go onto Google podcast for women in midlife. But if you know a name of one, then search that in iTunes. It's kind of hard to do this without a screen share, but imagine, you find She's Making an Impact is a perfect podcast for you to get featured on. Look it up in iTunes. And then the first thing you want to do is go to the very bottom of the page. So I'm a PC user. I hit end, don't know what y'all Apple people hit, but I go to the bottom of the page and it's going to show me listeners also subscribe to, and a bunch of
I'll see if I can pull it up on my phone while you talk. Okay. Yeah. Cause it's good to see the visual.
Yeah. And then I'm not sure how it works on the actual phone app, but I do it on my computer with iTunes Store. So I'll go to the bottom and it'll have a bunch of tiles of other listeners or subscribers also listen to and other similar shows.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm on the Bulletproof Radio podcast, and it's also telling me I might like the Model Health Show and Fat Burning Man.
And then just keep scrolling across to all those recommendations. Check them out. Is this show a good fit for me? If it is, know what? Do that again. Go to the bottom of the page. Get the latest recommendations based on that show. You can just lather, rinse, and repeat that formula and come up with 10 to 20 appropriate shows really quickly.
Okay, so you have like the titles of it, but how do you find the right contact person? What do you send to contact them?
Oh yeah, this is how we go into Lisa's creep strategy. So one of the things on iTunes, when you find the right show, and there are a few different things that I do to qualify that it's the right show first.
Yeah, how do you qualify that?
How do you qualify it?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the first things I do, so I'm on the iTunes page, first thing I look at is the released section. It'll have like the title, the name, and all that stuff. When's the last time they released an episode? Because if it was 2018, I don't need to spend any more time on this. So I check to make sure it's recent. The second thing I jump over to is on the far left to see, do they do interviews? Because there are some podcast hosts that it's their soapbox, which is 100% their total choice, and they're able to do that. But if they're not going to do interviews, I don't need to pitch them. So I look to see, do they do interviews? As long as I see subject line with so-and-so name, I know that they do that. And then I click on the left where it'll say their website. And then I hop onto their website and simply look on the contact us form. I try and creep for their email address that way. I'll share 2 creep strategies if it's not easily available. Number 1, if you're using Google Chrome, I encourage everybody to download a Chrome extension that's called hunter.io. Hunter.io.
Writing this down.
Yeah, no, everybody needs this. So what this extension does, once you plug it into your browser, anytime you land on a URL, it will search for associated email addresses. And if there's an email address associated with that site, the little orange fox on your browser will turn orange. And all you do is click on the fox and it'll show you the email addresses that came up. And it'll also predict email. Isn't that the best? It'll also predict the email formula. It'll say, you know what, we guess it's first name, last name, or first name dot last name. It's such a great tool. So that's the first thing that I would do. Secondly, go on their Facebook page, click on about, because sometimes people forget to remove their email address from there, and that's how I find it. So those are 2 strategies. I've got another one for Google, but I don't want to get confusing. So there's a way to creep people.
The hunter.io, that one is a game changer for sure. Okay, so you got their email address. What do you send them?
What do you send them? So, okay, I'm going to quickly blurt out what my pitch strategy looks like. So anyone who's watching this on the replay, like, get this transcribed, write this down. Once it comes out of my head, it is gone. So my pitch would sound something like, hey, Rachel, I've been listening to the She Makes an Impact podcast for a few months now, and I absolutely love the content you put out for your listeners. Some of my favorite episodes are A and B. And this is what I've learned from looking in iTunes. Your listeners are looking to figure out how to make an impact because they want to share their gifts with the world. And I am really good at helping people get visible. I would love to give back to a podcast that I've been listening to for so long and come on your show and share with your listeners how they can A, B, and C. At the end of this episode, they're going to walk away knowing how to X, Y, and Z. Would that be of value to your listeners? Let me know. I would love to come and give back to a show that I listen to all the time. So I haven't made it about me, my business, what I do, none of that. The credibility is I'm good at helping people do that, and I may have an example of it, but everything is not positioned as I. It's your listeners. Your people want to learn how to. Anytime you're writing an email, double check how many paragraphs begin with I or me. That makes the other person tune out. Make it about them. So it's all about, how do I, number 1, create value for the listeners? And number 2, I like to put them things in bullet points, because if you get a long block of text and you don't know me, guess what? You're probably going to hit delete. But if I can make it really easy on your eye to skim through the different points, that's going to make people a little more interested and give you the time of day, quite frankly.
For sure. So if we were to get an email like that, that would grab my attention, because you made my job so much easier. Like, you literally came up with the content. I'm not going to have to spend a ton of time doing like research or anything. Like, you have the topics that you want to talk about. So I'd be like, sweet, let's do it.
Yeah, you can take that strategy and use it for different websites, podcasts, television shows. It's all about, how can I make a difference for the person on the other side? Because you as a podcast host love, but you don't care about my program or what I'm peddling today. You care about giving your listeners value. So as long as I'm giving you value, then I'll get an opportunity to share. And for the people who resonate with me, they're going to want to learn more.
For sure. What would you put in the email subject line?
Oh, okay. This is a great question. So when we're marketing to our audiences, we know that we want to create intrigue. We know that subject line is what's going to decide whether or not they open it. When I'm pitching the media or podcast, I'm not trying to be cute. I'm not trying to be clever. I'm trying to be clear and precise, because I know you're busy. So my subject line is always quick question, podcast pitch.
Got it. Easy. Simple. Easy. Okay. Shifting gears. How do you land a spot on TV? So how's the strategy different?
Yeah, so one thing with television is a lot of people seem to think it's the host that they're going to send a pitch to. So here in Toronto, we have breakfast television. Dina's the front face of it, and people are going to pitch her. Dina gets to work every day, and she is told what she's wearing, what she's talking about, and all that good stuff. So if you want to be on television, you're looking for a producer. Ideally, a segment producer is the person you're going to be looking for. So number 1, just like I shared with the Forbes strategy, what show do you want to be on? Google the show's name plus the term producer, breakfast television producer. It's going to come up with some names. Great. Google that individual, go on LinkedIn to find them, make sure that the content that they put, like, if let's say you're someone who works in fitness and health and you see that this producer covers all the latest political news stories, not a match. Keep looking. So just, it takes a little bit of research and time, but here's the thing, when you get that one contact and you build that relationship, it becomes as easy as just shooting a text message and getting on. So I remember years ago, this is probably around 2009, 2010, when I was working with a company that we grew to be Canada's largest women's only boot camp. My CEO wanted to get featured on a show called City Line. Morning TV show, 9 to 10 a.m., airs across the country, like the ideal demographic to attend our camps was watching. So I found the producer, her name is Kate. I love that 10 years later, she's a great friend of mine and she's gonna be coming to my wedding next year, even though I don't work at that company and she's no longer with that TV show. But I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I know you guys do a lot of great content around XYZ. We would love to invite the host to one of our workouts. And so we pitched the TV show. They came and checked it out. Long story short, we had the entire audience dressed in our pink camo. You know what it costs to get an entire national audience in your branded gear? We got that for free. The host came to one of our boot camps. They aired it on television and we were probably sold out across Canada within the next 48 hours.
Wow.
Like there are boot camps everywhere, but we're the it factor. We're the ones you're seeing. We're the cool one that people want to be a part of. We're the leaders. So it's not good enough to just be a coach with an offering nowadays. People have choices. How do you position yourself to be the it brand? One thing that I often talk about is Soul Cycle. I don't get it. I don't do as much spin as I used to, but I sure as crap know I'm not spending $40 to pedal a bike for an hour and be on a wait list.
Is that how much it costs?
I think so.
$40 a class?
Plus, like, there's a wait list. They're always full. Like for me, there's a spin studio down the street doing the same thing for $20, and I'm happy to go there.
$20 is still expensive. I thought $5 was expensive.
Yeah, $20 a class that we're paying in Toronto. Trust me, I saw a townhouse the other day that cost $3.1 million. Like the city's just psycho.
Crazy.
Yeah. But the point is, Soul Cycle has built such a brand for themselves that they have a wait list, even though they charge twice as much. So as an entrepreneur, you want to be in the position to do the same thing. So how do you become that it brand that makes people not question your prices? They just care about your offer because you have that certain like factor that they want to be a part of.
How do you create that?
You know what? It's all about getting people talking about you. It's one thing to be like, hey, look at me, I'm awesome. It's a whole nother thing when everyone else is like, hey, look at her, she's awesome. Something I always think about is, I'd say probably about 3 years ago, totally random example. I was at dinner with 3 or 4 of my girlfriends. I never remember how many of us were there when I tell this story. Let's go with there were 4 of us. So at the end of dinner, as ladies often do, we just reglossed our lips. And it just so happened that 3 out of 4 of us were using fresh sugar lip gloss. Haven't used that in a few years, but we just happened to all 3 of us use it. So girlfriend number 4 sees 3 of her best friends using it and she's like, what's that? Why do you all have it? Now, keep in mind, girlfriend number 4 isn't a stupid sheep. But when she sees 3 of her best friends that like the same product and it's a coincidence that they're all using it, that turned her attention to the brand. Because obviously if my friends like it, there must be something in it because I have commonalities with these people. And then she went and bought one. It's very different than seeing an ad like, hey, buy fresh sugar lip gloss. But when all your friends have it, again, it's not that you're dumb, but it's like, oh, there must be something to it. And that's why people like it.
For sure. Okay, so you've been an entrepreneur for quite some time. What's one of the biggest mistakes or lessons learned over the years?
This is great. So as somebody who spends her life promoting other people, sometimes I forget to do it for myself. So I always remember 2015 had my first launch for my online course. My tax refund had come in a few months or a few weeks before, and I handed the entire thing to a designer to do my branding, my website, and my logos. And then launch day came, and I'm sitting at my computer, like waiting for all the sales to come in, and nothing happened, which was really stressful with rent coming up. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, nobody knows about this. Like, I'm spending so much time making sure my clients get out there, but I'm not getting myself out there. So that was an interesting one to learn as a publicist. I'd probably say that's one of the biggest mistakes. And I think to even layer onto that, it's not enough to say it once. You might get tired of listening to yourself talk about an upcoming launch, but it's new for other people. So keep talking about it.
For sure. Okay. What's one of the best books you've read?
Ooh. I recently read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and that one's changed a lot for me because I've always been like, I've always been like, I'm so happy being a solopreneur. I never ever want to have a team. That sounds like a disaster.
Yep.
And after reading that and reading about the different quadrants and thinking about the lifestyle I want to create, I was like, all right. And then the next month I hired 4 publicists, a graphic person, and a virtual assistant.
That's huge.
Not saying it's always fun and I love it, but I know that it's what I got to do to build a real business.
I love that you brought that book up because that's something that I don't think it's talked about enough. I don't think anyone's brought that up on our show in 200 episodes of me asking that question. My husband and I read it years ago. And so we were like, we need to become investors, not just business owners. So we just bought our first real estate property in Senegal. Like we're in the process of doing it right now in cash with the money I made from the business. And so like using the business as a money machine to invest in other things. I love that you brought that up. Such a good
100%. It's changed. Like my fiance and I, like, I don't think we have a single day when we hang out when he doesn't mention his investments once. Like, it's just so cool to see that he's read it now and he's starting to, like, he works a full-time job. I love that he never watches these things. He works a full-time job, but now he's starting to think about like, oh, well, what if I took some freelance on the side? Now we're starting to talk about like, we're looking at buying our first home. Neither of us have bought property before, but we're also thinking about, instead of getting a rental property, because like the idea of painting a wall annoys me, never mind renovations. We're now looking at, okay, how do we invest maybe in apartment buildings or storage facilities to use that as a source of passive income? So now we're thinking a lot more about like, not how do I just buy these Nikes, but how do I put money into Nike, the company, so I'm getting money back.
Yes. Okay. I love it. Love it. I have some more book recommendations for you.
I will take them all.
Millionaire Maker by Lori something is one that I would definitely recommend. And then Our Rich Journey, they're going to be on our podcast, I think next week.
Is that the couple that just bought a house in like Portugal?
In Portugal, yes. And I adore them. So definitely check out their YouTube channel. I loved my interview with them. I think they're going to be on Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't wait to see that. I've been watching them on YouTube over the last few months as well.
I adore them. Cool. What does it mean to you to make an impact?
Okay, I've got a really good answer for this one. It means making a really big difference in my clients' professional and personal lives. And I always get teary when I tell this story. So if I burst into like a little bit of tears running down my makeup, sorry. The twins that I mentioned before who are on the social, crying already. I remember they're Italian. So when they get on, when they do something, the family's there, the girlfriends are there, the cousins are there. So when they were on the social, it's a live studio audience. So like one whole row of this audience was mom, dad, cousins, girlfriends, etc. And at the end of the show, their mom came up to me and gave me a hug. And she was like, thank you so much for helping my boys continue to do what they love. And that was just like crying. That was just the most meaningful compliment to receive, to know that like I'm making a difference so they can help more people physically feel better and also create a great life for themselves. Like their mom works the front desk at their clinic. So, oh my God, I'm bawling. But that was like one of the most meaningful things for me. And I love helping my clients have that experience every time they come back. Like one of my clients was able to create revenue and adopt a girl from China. Like, how powerful is that? Now I have to reach for a Kleenex, guys, sorry. But those are the differences I love making for my clients. Okay, we're gonna try and not cry anymore. There we go.
Love it. Where can we connect with you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so one of the things I hear from people is, Lisa, I would love to get visible, but I don't know what to do. Like, I love being on stages. I'm an only child. Give me all the attention in the world. Some people don't like that. So if you're thinking about what's the best way for me to get visibility based on who I am as an individual, but also based on what the goals are that I have for my business, I've created a quiz and it's called Uncover the Best Way to Get the Word Out About Your Coaching Business. So if you want to find out what's the best way for me to promote my business, is that traditional media? Is that speaking? Is that joint ventures or cross promotions or a few different other options? Head over to www.lisasimonerichards.com/quiz and you will get an answer on which one's going to make which one makes the most sense for you. And you'll also get a video training that teaches you how to actually put it into practice. So that's at lisasimone, lisasimonerichards.com/quiz. There we go.
There you go. Amazing. Lisa, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your gifts and your talents with us. I really appreciate you.
This has been such a fun conversation. Thanks for having me on.